everyone. Today we will talk about the definitions of economics, the first chapter of class 9. Let us first understand the word economics. Economics originates from the Greek word oikonomikos, which can be divided into two parts. Oikos, which means home, and nomos, which means management. So this subject, economics, is derived from the household management. The father of economics, Adam Smith, stated the definition of economics as the study of the nature and causes of nations' wealth, or simply as the study of wealth. This is called the wealth definition of economics. The main characteristics of wealth definition is: first, the exaggerated emphasis on wealth. According to Adam Smith, economic prosperity of any nation depends only on its accumulation of wealth. According to Adam Smith, it is also an inquiry into the creation of wealth. The wealth of a nation may be increased through the raising of the level of production and export. It is also the study of the nature of wealth. According to Adam Smith, under the purview of economics is included only the material goods, the manufactured items which we can see, touch, and has value in exchange. According to Marshall, Adam Smith neglected human welfare, for which the accumulation of wealth is done. His definition is also narrowed down because he is only including the material goods under the purview of economics. He has ignored the non-material goods like the services of doctors, engineers, teachers, etc. Then he also stressed upon the concept of economic man, an economic man who runs after money all his life, accumulates wealth all his life. He has nothing to do with the feelings of love, affection, and compassion. The second definition of economics is given by Lionel Robbins, who was the professor of economics in the London School of Economics. He gave his definition saying, economics is a science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. The main features of scarcity definition include: human wants are unlimited. As we all know, the human wants multiply from cradles till the graveyard of man. And the means to satisfy human wants is limited. The money, the income that we have to satisfy the human wants is limited. The resources that we are talking about as means have alternative uses. Money can be put to so many uses. Efficient use of scarce resources. We have to put the resources to the best possible use. Otherwise, it will be wasted and cannot be used for future generations. Lastly, he talked about that there should be a choice between the urgent needs and the non-urgent needs. He is also criticized on a scarcity-oriented definition. He neglects economic growth and development and also has nothing to do with national income and employment, which is an important part of macroeconomics. Robbins was of the view that economic problems originate due to scarcity of resources, but many economists think that it is also because of excess supply of the goods and services when there is overproduction. That also causes economic problems. And this definition is not relevant for rich countries because scarcity of resources is not found in rich countries. The third definition is given by Keynes. His full name was John Maynard Keynes. He was a great economist and he wrote the book General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. He describes economics as a moral science and defined it as an interpretation of the current economic life or a study of economic society in which we live. His definition came to be known as human problem oriented definition of economics. The basic features of Keynes' definition include the demand aspects of economic activities. According to Keynes, during recession or extreme fall in prices, the government should intervene in the economic activities. He also emphasized on the psychology of individual behavior, how a person behaves while doing consumption. While consuming things, he consumes within his income and consumes more when his income increases. He also talked about the speculative demand for money. Speculative demand for money means to hold the cash balances and to invest only when the market rates are high. Invest in risky investments only when the market rates are high. He is also criticized on his theory. The first criticism includes the rise in government expenditure may lead to fall in private investment. Keynes talked about in detail about recession and said that recession leads to the government to start expenditure on public works, social security such as old age pensions, sickness benefits to increase effective demand. The government should borrow funds by selling bonds to the people. People require money, so demand for money increases over and above the supply of money. The market rate of interest on loans will rise and people will borrow less for investment. This is also called crowding out effect. So ultimately the net result on income rise may not be sufficient to boost up the aggregate demand. The second criticism involves government authority may not correctly estimate the demand shortfall. Keynes believed that government can easily estimate the exact shortfall in aggregate demand during recession, but actually the output gap can vary. That means the output can increase or decrease. Third, the criticism involves influence of political and bureaucratic pressures upon the fiscal policy of the government. The government can run a scheme for a short run period, but it may be difficult to stop that scheme because of powerful pressure groups who lobby the government to continue that program. Fourth criticism involves expectations of the taxpayers who may make the fiscal expansion policy ineffective. What is expansionary fiscal policy? Expansionary fiscal policy involves cutting of taxes to increase the disposable income of the income earners financed by borrowing. Then people may not spend more at present because they believe that government will definitely raise the taxes in the near future to meet its interest obligations or to pay off the debt. So even if the government is pursuing the expansionary fiscal policy, people have enough money to spend, but they will not spend because they think that in future when the taxes are raised by the government, then only they will be paying for it. The last criticism involves monetary policy might be more suitable to tackle the economic problem. Keynes emphasized the role of fiscal policy as the key of fighting recessions. Milton Friedman challenged his view. He said changes in money supply are largely responsible for most of the fluctuations in output because in 1930s during the Great Depression the bank failures were the main reason for the fall in prices. So proper monetary policy can correct recession. One of the last statements also included ineffective definition in tackling the problem of stagflation. Stagflation means coexistence of inflationary pressure along with higher unemployment or stagnation in many sectors of the economy. Critics pointed out that policies to boost demand were only aggravating inflation and not reducing unemployment in the long term. So this definition does not tackle the problem of stagflation. Coming on to the last definition of economics as given by Samuelson, his definition was growth oriented and he spoke about all the good points of the previous definitions. Professor Samuelson writes, economics is the study of how people and society end up choosing with or without the use of money to employ scarce productive resources that could have alternative uses to produce various commodities over time and distributing them for consumption now or in the future among various persons or groups in the society. It analyzes costs and benefits of improving patterns of resource allocation. So Samuelson has talked about in this definition about production, consumption, distribution and resource allocation and is one of the best definitions of economics. The main features include that this definition is growth oriented. It talks about the employment of scarce resources to produce commodities over time and deals with the dynamic problems of production. It also talks about the dynamic allocation of consumption. The problem of dividing the use of income between present consumption and future consumption has been brought about within the orbit of economics. Distribution is also talked about in this definition. It concerns itself with the distribution of consumption among various persons and groups in a society. Lastly, it also talks about the improvement of resource allocation. The resources have to be used to the best possible manner for economic development. Issues of development of less developed economy have also been made subjects of study of economics. So, in all, the best definition was the modern growth-oriented definition of Samuelson. Thank you.